Welcome to the Tired Dad podcast. This is episode 11. I'm Nathan Ross, your host, and with me I have my wife,
Melissa Ross.
And today we're just going to have a chat. We're going to talk about relationships.
We were talking about what should the content be for tonight, and we were just like, do you know what? Let's just talk about relationships, our experience of our relationship, what we know, what we've learned.
Let's just be honest, relationships are fucking hard work.
They are if you make them hard work.
No, they're hard work just generally. Okay, they're hard work generally. People go, oh no.
Let's not go straight in with the
Let's go straight with the cuts, man. Okay, straight with the cuts. They're hard work.
I think they can be if you make them hard work.
Okay, you're hard work.
You're hard work.
So they're hard work.
We're just going to argue.
Yeah, we're just going to argue. Okay, so let's talk about relationships, because we always say I believe relationships are hard work because you need to work at them. And
hard work or just work?
All work's hard work.
Really?
Yeah. So I believe that the honeymoon period is a false economical status.
We're going straight in with... We're doing some truth bombs tonight.
We're doing some truth bombs, and I think the honeymoon period doesn't last.
It lures you into a false sense of reality. That's what it does.
Yeah. And then when you start farting together in bed, that's the reality's there, isn't it? The reality's there. So let's talk about
Depends how long you've been together, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, didn't we? We went for a long time where we didn't do anything.
We turned the tap on to go to the toilet instead.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah, for years.
I can't remember when we broke the barrier.
When we had Emily?
It might have been when we went to... Was it when we went to Thailand?
Oh, yeah, I think we went to Thailand.
Yeah,
when we travelled to Thailand.
Shared hotel room.
Yeah.
Get away.
That's true. So anyway, let's talk about, first of all, the honeymoon period, because I think there's actually... let's talk about stages, because we've got the honeymoon period stage. Then
and when you're dating and
stuff like that. Then you've got the moving in stage. Then you've got, if you do it correctly, you've got the marriage stage.
We didn't.
And then you've got having kids stage.
Yeah.
And then after that, you feel like you're just battling relationships.
And also who you become as a couple after children as well, because it's different, isn't it?
But I think also every stage you change anyway, don't you?
Yeah.
Let's be real, the honeymoon period, you're trying to impress the woman, like, I'm giving you my best moves, I'm chatting some lyrics to you and you're falling for them and like, whoa, yeah, man, and all that sort of thing.
And what I will say about that is it's very easy to be your best self 20% of the time, which is probably how much you're probably seeing them. When you're living with someone 24/7 and they're seeing you when you wake up, when you go to bed, you know, they're seeing you at not your worst, so to speak, but it's really easy to put on a front, I think. So I don't think you really, really know someone until you live with them.
And I don't think you really, really know someone until you've had kids. And
I also don't think you really, really know someone until you go through a bit of a traumatic experience with them, because then the real them comes out. Yeah. Because we can all put a mask on and present ourselves. I always think about I always think about dating as if like you're doing a job interview. You're bringing your best self to the pie. You're looking fly.
But this can happen even when you've not got kids and you're married.
Yeah.
You can still be your best self.
Absolutely.
You've got time to look after yourself. You've got time to have a shower every day. You've got time to wear the nice clothes. You've got money to buy the nice clothes.
However, your genuine personality will be shown more because no one can keep that mask on forever.
I think people can.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I think it slips out. I do think
it may slip out every now and then. But
and then you're like, oh, this is the real you.
Yeah. And then I think what happens is people then, something happens traumatically, or you have kids and the stress of kids brings out the real person. And then you're like, man, I didn't know that person was like that. Or I didn't know
they were capable of that.
Yeah, or being impatient or tolerant or intolerant or whatever it is. So I do think like the honeymoon period probably can last for quite a while, even up until marriage point of view. Yes, there's a few things like marriage you probably don't make as much effort sexually, or you don't make as much effort trying to do yourself up. You don't mind farting or wearing a nightgown before you go to bed and all them sort of things. But I think most people's relationship goes downhill when they have kids.
I think it's lack of intentional effort. I think
but when does that happen?
I think the intentional effort is always there when you first start dating someone, because you're interested in getting to know them.
But if we think about, okay, let's not talk about the beginning part, because the beginning part for some of us is like 25 years ago, isn't it? Like 30 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Let's talk about the part after, because we all know the honeymoon period is BS. Yeah, we all know
it's not reality, is it?
It's not reality. So we all know that. And we all know, like, when we're meeting someone new, whether you've been with someone for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, or 25 years, or even 30 years, you can't remember the honeymoon period. Like, I remember we moved in quite quickly. We had a relationship quite quickly.
Our situation was slightly different though, because we knew each other already.
We knew each other for
so
years,
we had a bit. We always said we knew each other's kind of background. So we knew that each other was kind of a safe bet.
Yeah, of course.
In so many words, we weren't strangers to each other.
No. So we didn't have to do the whole thing of finding out about each other. No. We knew each other. We were friends before anyway, so which was great. But then let's fast forward, because then we had Emmy. And even before we had Emmy, we went travelling, we lived in Thailand and all that sort of things. We knew each other, but we still didn't know each other. Do you think we did?
I think we did, being the people that we were. But I think you become different people once you're parents.
And so once you become a parent, and I think that's where most people's relationships fail. Because I think what happens is they stop putting each other first, and there's a priority. And what happens then is the kid becomes the main focus. And your dreams and my dreams and ambitions can sometimes fade, and we're like. And
can I just add a point to that?
Yes,
you can. I think it's really important to discuss that. I think when you do have children, naturally, I think whichever person is the primary parent, they tend to lose themselves a little bit. Because I feel like the other person who isn't the primary parent kind of gets to keep their life as they knew it a little bit more.
I kept my life as
that's what I mean. So I feel like the person who isn't the primary parent, I'm not always saying it's the mother, because it's not, but whoever that person is, I feel like the other person kind of, not a huge amount changes for them.
I think we were different though, because we were running a business. So our main goal was, even before Emmy came, we were like, right, we've got this business, we need to make something of it. So then I was there focusing on running a business.
But that was business as usual for you.
Yeah, nothing changed for me. It was just running the business, whereas you were looking after Emmy.
Everything changed for you. Life as I knew it was never the same.
No, of course it wasn't. And then I was coming in and out of that every now and then because of work related and running a business. And for those dads that know about running a business, how much time and effort and how much of your life it takes up, trying to then support you. And I think that's where most marriages and relationships fail, because you have to be quite tolerable, don't you?
You've got to be quite empathetic to the other person's situation, and I think that's where a disconnect comes when people say that they don't have the same vision or the same goals anymore. Because while you're the person at home raising the child, that is your sole focus. You don't really have a lot of time to do much else if you're, doing it properly.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just going to put it out there. If you're doing it properly, that's your main focus. You don't really have a lot of time for anything else. Whereas the non-primary parent still has time to work on those goals and has time to focus on themselves.
And I think what happens then...
And then I think it's the whole disalignment.
We've got different goals.
Yeah,
we've got different goals.
We don't want the same things. We're not into the same things. But it's actually just because of a timings issue of... one of you is at home with the child, the other person's out doing whatever they're doing.
And I think that what that can then relate to then, or cause, is resentment from the wife's side of it, or the girlfriend's side of it.
If it's the wife, it might be the dad that stays at home.
Let's just talk about traditionally. It can cause a lot of resentment where you're resenting of me because nothing really changes for me.
It's okay for you. You've got time to work on yourself.
Yeah, I can still do my workouts. I can still go and find time. I can still go out and you'll look after the little one and all them sort of things. So then that causes a lot of resentment from you towards me. Also, I think then I start to believe that maybe we have got different goals because you're not putting as much effort in because you're just solely involved with the little one. And then I think if you're not making time then for date nights, I think if you're not making time to understand and explore each other and the emotional connection, then that's where people's relationships start to come apart, don't they?
How do you think we alleviated that problem of kind of having a bit of a disconnect after we had Emmy?
It was different for us because you had your back incident. There's been so many things along the way.
I'm thinking like in the early stages.
We had loads of date nights, didn't we?
Well, we were lucky that for a while we lived with my mum.
Yeah.
So she was
primary
babysitter. So we had lots of opportunities when you weren't working to go and do things together. But I think also, I do think we did have a good understanding of how each other were was living at that time.
Yeah.
So I understood how exhausted you were and that, you know, you didn't get a lot of time with Emmy. I tried to alleviate that by bringing her to the gym, you know, kind of facilitating you seeing her more.
Yeah.
And on a Sunday, you would just kind of, you never had to do anything in the house, let's be honest. No. I took care of everything. Yeah. But then on the flip side of that, you would also see how exhausted I was, and you would come home sometimes after an 18-hour day and still do a night feed because I was exhausted. So I do feel like we were quite empathetic towards each other. I don't feel it was like, well, that, you know, you're the breadwinner, so that's not my problem.
I think what happened for us, and if I remember rightly, I'm rubbish at remembering things, but there were so many instances along the way that impacted. It wasn't just, okay, you're at home doing this, I'm at the business doing this, and that's it, and then we build this happy family. We had so many things, like you had your spine crumbling, so then that all happened with you, and then you had that whole 18 months of trying to get back into your back and having lots of work done on and rebuilding yourself. You put loads of weight on because of it. So we had all that. Then I decided to open another gym. So we had all that as well. And I think there were so many things we were doing separately to try and fight that it puts a lot of pressure on the relationship then, didn't it?
Yeah.
And so then...
Do you feel like you mentally drifted away from me in that time because you were so focused on...
Yeah, I think you do mentally drift away, but I think you physically drift away as well because you're so focused on other things, aren't you? And that's
thinking that was the most important thing.
And that's where then what happens is you let your guard down. And that's where shit happens. Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's really...
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah. And so it's really important that... And if most of the dads that I talk to now about relationships, I've just come off the phone to one now, haven't I? I always say to dads, like, it's really easy to take your eye off the ball.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And be caught up in making money, being caught up in running the business, be caught up in fitness and focus on yourself and all those sort of things. But the moment you take your eye off the ball with your family is the moment that cracks start to appear and you let things in.
Absolutely. I always talk about your marriage and your relationship as like a bubble that you've got to protect. Like you can't let anybody come in and pop your bubble, so to speak. It's a very precious thing that you've got to maintain, and there shouldn't be any instances where anybody can come even close to your relationship.
No.
And I'm not just talking about, you know, the opposite sex or whatever, just even, you know, your family, you know, because I know a lot of people like to involve their families in their relationship and then you get a lot of opinions either way. I think it's a very, very special and precious thing, your relationship with your spouse. And I think ultimately that's going to be your most important relationship. And I'm going to put it out there, as much as people will say you always put your kids first, I don't think you should put your kids first because at the end of the day...
Oh my God, that's controversial.
It is.
Yeah.
Of course, we dedicate our life to our daughter. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when she's grown, when she flies the nest,
which she never will do.
What's going to be left of us?
Yeah.
And I think that happens to so many people. They get to the point where the kids are older and then they look at each other and say, I don't know you.
Maybe then we should put that a better way, because I think there's a better way to put that. Rather than saying you put your husband first or your wife first instead of the kids, maybe it's making time for them.
Yeah.
Rather than, because let's be real, kids, when you have kids, it's kids. Like the moment we pick her up from school, like just recently, like tonight, we picked her up from school. I went and got her measured for a bike. You came in, we went and sat and had a Costa coffee. She's dad, mom, this. Then we go shopping. She's all dad, mom, this. Then we come home. I've just done a workout with her and done some fitness with her. You've cooked dinner. We've sat around the table. And for those who've got kids, you probably can understand and resonate with this. From the moment you have them to the moment they go to bed, it's mom, dad. So you're going to have to put them first there. What the most important thing is, you're then making time for your partner, however that may look. It's not your time. And this is why I say to a lot of dads, like, it's not your time. Once the kids to go to bed, that's not your time just to be for you. It's your time for your relationship.
Yeah.
If you want time for yourself, get up an hour before you wake up,
Yeah.
If you want an hour to yourself to work out, get up at 5 a.m. and have that solitary time, which is what I do. I go on my bike rides, I do my gym workout.
Or as we've spoken about before, have a family calendar.
Yeah.
And book in when you want to have those times to yourself. So like, on certain days you're going to do your bike ride or you're going to do your gym sessions, and that's time for you, right?
But the evening, I truly believe the evening time, the wind down period times of when you put your kid to bed should be solely for your marriage. And
if
whether
not work.
If not work, But for us, it's obviously work and marriage. But for us, we always put a film on.
Yeah.
I don't know how, and we usually don't end up watching the film because we fall asleep or whatever. We're so back and just go to bed. But it's just that time to chill, connect, relax together, and
that's what I'll come back to, that intentional connection, because it has to be intentional. And we spoke about this in a couple of podcasts ago, that in terms of how we've rebuilt our relationship, it is intentional effort.
Yeah.
Effort doesn't just happen.
No.
You have to schedule it in. You have to plan it in. As much as you think things should just be spontaneous, and it's great when it is. But
that's in the movies. That's in the movies.
That's in your honeymoon period. That is in real life. And trust me, that point will come to an end. So you should never be deterred or led astray thinking that a honeymoon period situation is going to be your reality, because it never will be. That honeymoon period will eventually end. The mask will come off. You'll see that person for who they are. And then you can decide if you really like them or not.
Let's talk about arguments.
Okay.
Why do you want to talk about arguments, Mel?
Why do you want to talk about arguments, mate?
Let's talk about arguments. We had one last night.
Yeah. It was your fault.
Why have you gone high pitched?
Because you came back and was like, we're not going to talk about it. I was like, okay.
So let's talk about arguments, because guys, everyone has arguments, okay?
Let's be real. If you're spending your life with someone, you're not going to agree 100% of the time, are you, on things?
No, you're not, are you, Mel?
No, you're not, okay.
So last night we had an argument.
Couldn't even tell you what it was about, can you?
And this is why I want to talk about arguments, because they are funny. When you look back at it.
Yeah. At the time, you're so vexed about it.
And last night, the argument, I can't remember what the argument was about. No.
I couldn't stand you. You couldn't stand me. We just wanted to be as far apart as possible. And then less than 12 hours later, we're like, what was that about?
Yeah, but it wasn't even that. I ended the conversation. I ended the argument.
Yeah, and so did I. We went to bed. See you later.
So anyway, let's talk about arguments, because I sent you a thing today, didn't I? And it was like literally, what was it about?
Basically, if you lost the person tomorrow or today, would what you were arguing about matter? And if it doesn't,
let's be real, man. Let's be real. Most arguments are so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like ours last night, it went on for like a good few hours.
And I couldn't actually even tell you what it was about. We don't need to go into it.
I can't really
No.
I know you were being stubborn, and
so were you.
and I was right. But so let's talk about arguments and how to resolve them quickly, because we've become better at this.
I think 2 disagreements in. Well, we've been back together 10 months. Mm-hmm. So.
But
before that, I wouldn't say, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't say from when we first got together to when things started to sort of dissipate.
Yeah.
We were an arguing kind of couple. We never were, were we?
And this is why I want to talk about arguments, because I think stress can cause a lot of arguments. And dads, if you're watching this, you'll relate to this. Like the stress of finance, the stress of not being the dad you want to be, the stress of running your own business, the stress of wanting to be more at home with the kids and all that. That can all lead to tension. And then on the flip side of that is stress of doing things that you shouldn't be doing, can then all lead to then tension of...
Well, the biggest thing that I think created arguments between us was your deflection.
Yep.
Your deflection of the situation.
I love how you've done this now, because I was thinking about just talking about doing arguments, and now you've turned it around. This is great ploy.
We're going to start again.
Great ploy.
But I'm just saying, when you're guilty of something or you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, the deflection is always what causes the arguments, isn't it?
Yeah. And also, I think that it's deflection, but also denial.
Yeah.
So that guilt, you feel guilty, so then what you want to do is try and make things better, but then you'd be like, I can't bother.
Or because you're feeling shit about something, you want to create an argument that wasn't there to then create an issue to justify why you're feeling annoyed or angry or upset. Or
So what is the best way to resolve arguments?
I think really honestly take a step back and really think about, what are we actually arguing about here, and how can we resolve it?
Yeah.
How can we because let's be honest, from one singular argument, you're not going to split up. So I know it can...
But I will say this. You can see how easy it can get to that point with the snowball effect.
From one argument?
If you think about it, remember the breakup?
That wasn't one singular argument, though, was it?
Yeah, it was.
It was basically a load of resentment that eventually all spewed out, wasn't it?
What resentment? They were all around the table. He forgot the lemons. Remember?
Yeah, but do you remember why she was upset about the lemons? It wasn't the lemons.
What was it?
It was because he didn't want to bring her the lemons because he never helped her. So it was this built-up resentment.
But the thing was, one argument led to then...
Yeah, but all that one argument is the thing that, the straw that breaks the camel's back, isn't it?
So it can. So one argument can
but
do that. But if there's underlying issues before
that's what I mean.
Obviously...
If you're completely fine, one argument isn't going to destroy you.
But what relationship's fine?
Yeah. As.
Such a lie. And anyone says they've got the perfect relationship, bullshit.
Lie.
Okay, so I think one of the best ways to resolve arguments from a man's point of view is don't be a stubborn bastard.
Mm-hmm. Which you do struggle with sometimes.
Yeah, I am a very stubborn man.
You can be quite prideful.
Yes, and stubborn, and so can you. But anyway, I'm going to get my digs in. So I think as a man, don't be stubborn. Okay, and this is one thing I've got to learn, is whether you're right or whether you're wrong, it doesn't matter.
No.
Okay, as that guy Monkey says in Lion King, it doesn't matter, it's in the past. Because you ain't going to win, man. Okay, you're not going to win. Okay, so accept the fact that sometimes you've got to drop your pride, drop your ego and go,
if you feel like you need to be heard, I don't feel like it's a bad thing to have the conversation about what it was, because I know sometimes you're very quick to say, right, let's just forget about it now.
Yeah.
My thing is, I like us to talk about it, unravel it, so it's not going to be repeated.
Because when you want to talk about it, you really want. I was like, Mel, if you think about the argument last night, what's it to talk about?
Okay, we have very, very different ways that we cope with things. So you're very much shut down, switch off, and then 10 minutes later you're over it.
Yeah,
I'm like, I want to unravel it, I want to talk about it. And then once we've done that, then I can be okay. But I can't just go away, have 10 minutes and then be fine, but you can.
Yeah.
So
that's the difference between men and women.
Yeah, but also, so it's understanding each other's, because we spoke about this before, didn't we, love languages, and understanding each other. So I'm learning more to understand that actually disengaging with you works, because if I just walk away and give you 10, 15 minutes, you're over it.
Yep.
And I think for you're understanding me more, that I like to have that unravelling of communication to explain and then sort of be able to move on. So just hearing each other and realising that what you're actually arguing about isn't that big of a deal.
Usually, guys, ladies, if you watch this as well, but this is for the men, it's usually over something so BS.
And if you are arguing about something that is a big deal, then those conversations shouldn't be had in an argument when you're angry.
No.
So you shouldn't be having those conversations that are serious, that need to be had when you're feeling pent up, when you're feeling resentful, when you're feeling angry, because you can spew out words then that can't be taken back.
Yeah, true. Let's talk about hurt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pain. Because I feel you've had a lot of pain.
Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I'm a sucker for punishment.
You've been through a lot of pain. As a man, I've caused you a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Talk about the pain that you've caused me?
No, not talk about the pain I've caused you, but talk about how have you overcome the pain. Because you've had to forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I remember when many years ago, when we had a conversation about something, I'd never forgive anyone if they did this, blah 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 blah, this and that. And you were probably along the same lines, wasn't you?
Yeah. I asked you this question the other day. Do you remember? I said, now being in the situation that we're in, where forgiveness has had to take place, a lot of forgiveness, and moving forward, do you feel differently now about our forgiveness and what that looks like? And you said,
yeah,
because you were very black and white, cutthroat. If anybody ever did that to me, I'd be like, I'll cut them off and never speak to them again.
Yeah.
But you said you
I
feel
don't
differently
think you
now.
can make that judgment unless you're in the situation.
No.
And I think anyone that says, "Oh yeah, I'll cut them off because of whatever," and they say, I get it, because it's true, it's very raw and all that.
And it's very easy for you to say that about somebody else's situation
of course,
that you're not involved in. Because
but again, like some of the dads that I've spoken to this last week, like they're in situations where their wives said they're done. One of them said their wife's been having an affair with their best mate, and all these sort of things like that. And I'm just like, if you can forgive, which is what you've done, it's hard. So how do you do it?
It's still a journey, and I don't think I'll ever get to a point where, you know, I wake up one Tuesday morning and go, you're 100% forgiven.
Oh no,
I'm there. I'm done. You know, it's a journey. It's not easy, but it is a choice, and I have to remind myself every day that it's a choice for me to forgive and to move on from a situation that has caused a lot of pain. But I think a big factor in that is, number one, I've done a lot of work on myself during the period of time that it was all going on, the period of time that we weren't together.
Yep.
And I feel like since coming back together, I'm a different person.
Totally.
I think we're both different people.
Oh yeah, we are. We are both totally different people. And those people that thought they knew us before this, you wouldn't recognise us now,
no,
would they?
And people,
not saying we look different.
No,
I'm just saying more mentally and emotionally, we're two different people.
Massively.
And I think a big part of that is our faith.
Yeah.
And we don't want to talk about that, but I think that's one of the biggest things, because we've done a podcast about that already. But I think one of the biggest things is allowing God into our relationship and take control over our relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that, paired with me going for counselling, that paired with you forgiving, it's been a recipe for success, hasn't it?
Yeah. I think for me, it's that thought process that holding on to something is like that sermon that the pastor spoke about. It burns you more than it does anyone else.
Yeah.
Holding on to grief, holding on to anger, holding on to resentment, it only hurts you. It will destroy you from the inside out. If you hold on to that, you've got to let it go. And if you're choosing to forgive and move on and work on your relationship, then I can't throw this at you every single day of our life, and I don't feel I ever have. In all honesty, I don't feel like I ever have.
My thing is from the perpetrator, from the person that committed the offence,
from the criminal,
and the victim, you are now. My thing for men is this, I know there's a saying, the grass is always greener, and everyone goes, your grass is only greener where you water it.
It's brown and dry.
It's brown and dry. And the grass is always greener where you water it and all this sort of thing. I don't even want to go down that route.
Yeah.
If you're starting, I posted this the other day, and this is how it starts. If you're starting to have conversations that you wouldn't show your wife, if you're starting to look at things that you wouldn't want your wife to see, if you're starting to act in a way that would make your wife uncomfortable or question you, you're already cheating.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a physical.
It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It doesn't have to be. It could be.
Your head has already been turned.
Yeah, and I think if there's dad watching this and you're like, well, I'm already at that point, you've got to start really asking yourself the question, why you're at that point. Are you allowing someone to distract you? Are you justifying it by saying, oh, your wife doesn't give you sex, your wife doesn't do this, your wife doesn't do blah, 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 or give you attention, so then you're justifying it by giving someone else's attention.
Because you can tell yourself a whole load of lies.
You can tell, as a man, guys, men, dads, tired dads, I will tell you now, and you know this deep down, you will justify your own BS. Okay, you will justify it. And so it's really important that if you're at that point where you're starting to text, or you're starting to ask yourself the question, why am I doing this?
If I put this much effort into my relationship, as to what I'm doing outside of my relationship, how good could my relationship be? Because, again, you've got to ask yourself, if you're that unhappy with the person that you're with, do something about that before you move on.
Yeah. And most of the time, I'll be honest with you, most of the time, is putting effort back into your own relationship.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line, and the easiest line to say is most of the time it's about putting effort back into your own relationship. Yes, the excitement. Yes, someone else giving me attention is great and all that BS. But
even 11 years on, even like when we go on dates now, it feels just like it did in the beginning.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah,
we get excited. You get those butterflies.
That's because of effort, innit?
You're making the effort,
and I think most men and most women don't.
So you can sustain that.
Oh yeah,
it just has to be intentional effort.
Totally. So I think we've covered quite a few topics today.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't really have any sort of pointers. We were just we'll just go with it. But I feel sometimes when you talk from the heart, it's real, isn't it?
Yeah. And I reckon a lot of people watching going, what did Nath actually do?
Yeah, it'll be a long podcast.
Will it?
It'll be a long podcast.
It will be a long podcast. And one day we'll share the whole in and out of it. But I feel like we need to lead up to that.
Yeah. You'll need a black coffee for that one.
I need a black coffee for that. We're going to do like a Joe Rogan 4-hour podcast with Jordan Peterson. Do you know what I mean?
So in 2021.
Yeah. It's such a bitch sometimes, isn't it? Kind of an argument now because of this. Right, guys, so that comes to the end of episode 11. And now, if you liked our podcast, if you liked what we do and you're supporting us, please like us on Instagram, Tired Dad Traditions. If you like the podcast, please comment, loved it. If you didn't like it, comment why you didn't like it. You might not like the way we're talking or whatever. If you've got any questions that you want us to answer, then we'd be happy to
I think we're going to do a Q&A podcast,
We are going to do a Q&A podcast. But most of all, guys, if you're watching it, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, go to Tired Dad Traditions on Instagram, follow us. If you want to be part of our dad's group, okay, and this is a new thing I've been building up now for the last 4 weeks, and we've got a great bunch of dads now in this group, helping, supporting each other, all from different areas of the world, different backgrounds, single dads, married dads, people that are going through divorce and all that. Click the link in the comments, okay? That'll lead you to our Signal group, direct messaging service, and we all there just dropping texts, chats and supporting each other. So that would be great to have you in there. Otherwise, guys, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you in episode 12.
Bye.
Oh, I like that. Was good.
Yeah, I feel like we probably do best when we're